It's January, which means bad movie season is here, but does Primate break that trend? Well, let's talk about it. So in this movie, we follow a family pet monkey named Ben, but once he catches rabies, he turns into a killing machine and goes after those who take care of him and their friends. So with that said, as always, before we get started, if you're new here, my name is Aaron and I talk all things movies and TV, but really mostly movies, so if you're into that sort of thing, go ahead and hit that subscribe button for me and hit that like button as well. And of course, if you've already seen the movie, let me know your thoughts on it down below in the comments, but without further ado, let's talk about Primate. Jumping right into the good, and the first thing I have here is of course what makes this movie so fun, and that is the gory and gruesome kills that we get in this thing. This movie was not afraid to kill its cast, and some of the way these characters died in this movie got an audible reaction out of me. And to give you a feel of what type of kills we got in this movie, let me just say that this movie starts off with ripping someone's face clean off. And that's another thing, this film did not waste any time getting going. It's a tight 90 minutes that sets the tone early and then just lets the carnage begin. This movie is at its best when Ben the monkey is killing people in the most horrific ways possible. And once this guy gets rabies, he just turns into a bloodthirsty killing machine, and it is so entertaining to watch. Another thing that added to the entertainment factor of this thing is that even though Ben had rabies and was on this killing spree, he was still very smart, so you would see him tease, set up, or just mess with people right before he brutally kills or hurts them, and I just thought that was hilarious because it did give this film a sense of humor. Plus, it helps that a majority of these characters were pretty unlikable and annoying and were clearly just there so that Ben would have more people to kill, so it was satisfying watching some of those characters that you don't necessarily like get killed in brutal ways. It was clear that this movie knew how ridiculous it was, and they weren't afraid to have fun with that, which is why this movie, even though it has a plethora of problems, which I will get into, was entertaining and a really fun time to watch. But the last little thing I'll mention before I get into this movie's problems is what they did with Ben the monkey in terms of the way he looks. Going into this, I obviously thought that they were going to be using some type of CGI monkey in this thing, but as I was watching this movie, I realized that, hey, that's just someone in a monkey suit. I really appreciate that they did that practically, plus you don't really notice it throughout the movie, so I guess that's just a big kudos to the costume department of this film, because I thought Ben looked great for him being in a practical monkey suit. But moving on to the so-so, and yes, let me start this by saying I get that this is a movie that doesn't take itself seriously at all. It's very much in on the joke of how ridiculous this thing is, but with that said, I do still think there are a couple of things that they could have done a little bit better. The first thing I have here is how they handled the suspense in this thing. Now, in the beginning of the movie, I think they did a really good job with that suspense. They even set up a plot line with the little sister of the main character being severely injured by Ben that very much would have raised the stakes of this movie and almost would have made this feel like a race against time in order to save her. But they really didn't do anything with that, and as this movie went on, even though the kills were a lot of fun, they really couldn't sustain that suspense all the way through. And I think if they would have used that plot line of the little sister of our main character being severely injured and maybe given her a certain amount of time before she dies, I think that would have added a sense of urgency to this film and heightened the stakes a little bit more too. And in turn, I think that would have given them an easy way to sustain that suspense throughout the entire movie, because now we have something pretty big at stake. But instead, they kind of forget about that plot line and then sideline her for a lot of this movie. But moving on to the next thing I have for the so-so, and that is the emotional core that this movie tried to have. Now, again, I get this movie is not taking itself seriously, but it did clearly try to have an emotional core with our main family in this thing. It was fine for what it was, but at the end of the movie, at least for me, it just fell flat and didn't work all that well, because outside of the first like 5 to 10 minutes of this film, they didn't give that plot line much attention. So once we got to the end of this movie and we try to have this big emotional moment with this family, you're just sitting there like, oh, that's cool, but I wish we would have gave a little bit more attention to the relationship of this family so this moment would have hit just a little bit harder. But finally, getting into the bad, and the only thing I have here is a common trope amongst horror movies, especially horror movies like this, and that is that our characters make a plethora of bad decisions in this movie. It was just downright laughable at some points, and at the end of the day, I guess it did just add to the entertainment factor of this movie, but there were just so many moments throughout this film where our characters would just make the dumbest decisions so that this movie could go on, or we could experience a good kill. So at the end of the day, it's not all that big of a deal because this is something that all horror movies have to deal with, but there were some pretty dumb decisions made in this movie. So for my final thoughts, yes, this movie definitely has its problems, but it's entertaining and a lot of fun to watch. The kills are the highlight of the film as they are gory, gruesome, and just straight up brutal. But everything outside of that is just okay. So on my personal tier list, this goes in the average for me, but this movie is still one heck of a time. Those are my thoughts on Primate. Be sure to let me know what you thought of the movie down in the comments, and as always, be sure to like, subscribe, comment. God bless, and I'll see you guys later. Peace. Hey, thanks for watching to the end of the video. Be sure to subscribe, and here's some more cool videos you may like. All right, that's all I got. Peace.